podcast, the show where we explore the fascinating journeys and insights of today's most compelling leaders and innovators. We are your hosts, Vani and Navya, and we are thrilled you're joining us for what promises to be a truly inspiring conversation.
Today, we are honored to have a guest whose career is nothing short of remarkable. He is a former naval officer who has not just navigated the high seas but has now seamlessly transitioned his profound expertise from commanding operations at sea to driving impactful innovation here on land.
Please give a warm welcome to Sir Commander Jagan Girisabala with a distinguished career in the Indian Navy. Sir brings with him a wealth of experience in leadership, strategic execution, and unique power of system thinking.
Sir, it is an absolute honor and pleasure to have you with us today. Thank you for being here.
Let's dive right into your fascinating journey, sir. Sir,
I would like to interrupt here and say that it's an absolute honor and a privilege for me to join two bright young minds, Navya and Vani, in this conversation. I'm looking forward for it. Thank you for having me here.
Thank you, sir.
let's dive right into your fascinating journey, sir. Sir, thank you for joining us. Your transition from commanding at the sea to driving innovation on land is fascinating. Could you start by sharing what initially drew you to serve in the Indian Navy?
My journey into Indian Navy started when I was somewhere of your age. Like Navya was sharing with me a few minutes back that during the summer break she went to her grandparents' house. I too went to my grandparents' house, which happened to be in a coastal city. And I was fascinated by visiting the beach and seeing the sea and the ocean. It was Arabian Sea, and I know it was rather Bay of Bengal which I was looking at. And it was alluring, it attracted me. It put in me a sense of feeling that there is an adventure beyond in that sea. So I got motivated by that. And like all children of my age at that time, I was also fascinated in joining armed forces. But it started with a journey to my grandparents' house in which I was on a beach and viewing the sea. So after my 12th standard, I gave the NDA examination, which I luckily cleared. It's a very tough examination, and I was able to clear it. Thereafter, I got commissioned into the Navy in the year 1997. That was my journey up to entrance into Indian Navy.
That's that's truly inspiring reason, sir. The blend of patriotism and adventure.
What was your favorite thing to do when you were a little boy like us?
Great question. Thank you. Like all little boys like me, I think I was up to mischief most of the time. And both of you are girls, and I'm sure you must be looking at the boys around you and thinking they are very mischievous. I too was one like that. My favorite thing to do when I was a little boy was to read books. Started with a fascination for comics, but then soon transcended into Enid Blyton. Have you heard of Famous Five and Secret Seven? Started with that and into other books. I was a voracious reader. Half the time I used to be hunting all the libraries in the town and trying to take membership and draw books there and bring it home and read it as early as possible so that I can get my hands on other books. So my favorite thing to do would be definitely reading.
Wow, that sounds like so much fun.
When you were a Navy commander, what was the most fun part of your job?
Great question. A life in armed forces is one of adventure. Vani, you were mentioning that you did a lot of adventure activities on your summer break trip to Nepal.
Yes.
Navy is one continuous life like that. There are a lot of risks involved. For an outsider, it might appear very risky, but we are extremely trained in armed forces. People do not realize that in armed forces, we spend a lot of time studying and training. We spend a lot of time studying and training. People only see the glamorous part of it, but they don't see the sweat and the effort it goes behind the scene to be so good. Because it is one such profession wherein you do a mistake and you'll pay with your life, unlike other professions, wherein in business, if you do a mistake, you will only lose money, which you can get back later. Here, if you do a mistake, you'll either pay with your life or the life of your comrades. So one needs to be very careful. My favorite thing in armed forces, being from Indian Navy, was to be on ship at sea. You remember my fascination in childhood at sea? I was able to live that in real time. I was very lucky. A ship at sea in middle of an ocean with nearest land being more than 2,000 kilometers away is a fantastic feeling. Early morning sunrise deep in the ocean is something you would have never ever witnessed before. The calm, the sound of the waves washing against the ship, the smell of the sea, these were my favorite things. I really miss those days when I spent all my time at sea.
The thrill of solving complex problems at sea sounds incredibly exciting and mentally stimulating.
What was the most significant leadership lesson you learned during your naval career?
An officer in armed forces is primarily a leader of men. You are expected to set an example and lead your men at all times. You are being observed by your men at all times. One of the key criteria for selection into armed forces is something called OLQ, officer-like qualities, which involves testing your psychology, whether you have those leadership skills. One of the biggest leadership lessons I learnt, amongst many life has taught me in armed forces, which I carry forward to these days. Before you ask your subordinates or people under you to do something, you should know and learn and physically do it yourself first. Then only you can ask someone to do a specific task. You cannot ask somebody to go and dig a deep trench of 6 feet and expect them to complete it in 1 hour. You would only know the effort it takes if you have done it yourself before, know how much time it takes to dig the trench, how much physical effort it takes, and then only you can ask somebody to do that. So one abiding lesson which I have carried throughout my life is that even now as a leader, when I interact with people who are subordinate to me, when I give them a task, I put in a lot of effort to do the task myself before I give the task to them and set some expectations from them. So as a leader, the biggest lesson I've learned is to learn to do things yourself first before giving the job to others.
Leading by example. That makes so much sense. Thank you for sharing such a powerful lesson from your naval career.
Sir, in the realm of education, where do you see the biggest opportunities for innovation to truly transform learning outcomes and prepare students for a rapidly changing world?
Thank you so much. That's a great question. And one of the key things which we do in the program which we conduct with your school, unfortunately you guys are a bit young to be a part of that program because the program is for 6th graders and above. I represent an organization called IFFSPD Europe, International Foundation of Sustainable Peace and Development. We conduct a fellowship program for the students from 6th grade and above. And the question which you asked is, in this rapidly changing time, what is one of the key principles or learnings which one should carry. I believe that every child, apart from the great academic effort you put in, that is the technical skills which you learn during studies, which is maths, science, social studies, your languages, they are important. But you should also learn something which we call as sustainable leadership. We live in a very complex world, and as you mentioned, a rapidly changing world. The world is ambiguous, uncertain. To not only survive, but to thrive in this, you need to learn a set of skills which are global in nature. Our generation, when we all came out of studies, we were still inward thinking and inward looking. Because at that time, I think India was some 15th or 20th by the ranking of GDP. You kids, right now India is 4th in the ranking of GDP. By the time you come out and finish 12th, India definitely will be 3rd in the terms of GDP. You enter a world which is very different from us. You need to develop a global perspective, not just Indian perspective. You need to learn that you deserve a place on the table in a global world. You need to think not only beyond your city, your state, but you should also think beyond your country. Global perspective, multi-stakeholder perspective, to put yourself in the shoes of different stakeholders in analyzing a problem, a sense of belonging at a world stage. All this together we call as sustainable leadership. I feel that sustainable leadership is one of the most important qualities which our education system to teach to our students. It should teach them that they are inheriting a country which is there as the top country in the world. You need to have pride in that. Very different from what we had. You cannot have the same type of education what we had, because the country is very different now as compared to when I was at your age. So that's where I feel our education system should go to. It should start preparing global citizens. That would be my answer.
It feels like it would encourage us to think more deeply.
Absolutely. I hope so too.
Outside of your professional pursuits, what's one passion or hobby that helps you recharge and maintain your professional your sharp perspective?
Thank you so much for that question. I'm a history buff. My favorite subject when I was your age was history. I love reading about history. I told you that I was a voracious reader, so I love to read about history. In fact, in your city, this is the first time I'm visiting your city of Varanasi. And it's such a profound feeling because this is one of the oldest cities in the world. You are surrounded by history. Even the least old things you would see, which would be very common, is older than United States of America. The entire country itself. That's how beautiful history is. I'm fascinated by history. That is something I spend my time reading or watching YouTube videos on history. Maybe about travel to historical places. So even though I might not be able to travel, I view others making videos on travel. That's why I was so interested in you visiting Nepal. It's also an historical place. Did you know that Nepal and Thailand are the only two countries in the world which have never been conquered by colonial powers. So these are the kind of historical facts I'm very curious about. So whenever I'm not doing whatever I'm doing, I try to spend my time as much as possible in reading up about history.
Sir, that sounds so wonderful.
What is IFFSPD and how it is transforming youth?
Thank you so much for that question. IFFSPD stands for International Foundation for Sustainable Peace and Development. It's a European organization headquartered in Bulgaria, Sofia. We have over 60 member nations across the world, and we work very closely with governments, corporates, and educational institutions. We have a consultative status with United Nations, European Union, and Davos Worldwide, which are world-renowned bodies. With the schools, especially in South India, for which I'm responsible for, I'm the program director for the programs in South India, South Asia, including India. We run a program called IFFSPD Europe Global Sustainability Hub. We select 10 schools every year. Your school was one of those which was selected last year. So, great accolade for your school. In the selected schools, we run a program called IFFSPD Europe Fellowship. Our fellowship program is a year-on-year, higher order, continuous capacity building program. So you graduate 1 year and get into the second and third and fourth year, like what you do in your schools. Within the fellowship, we provide various components to the students who are a part of the program. We pick only about 10% of students to be a part of the fellowship program. That is from 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th and 11th and 12th. We pick up from each of them only 10% of students to be a part of the fellowship program. For the students who are a part of the program, we run various programs within the fellowship. Programs such as Global Sustainability Council, wherein we discuss global agenda case studies. For example, a case study can be, have you heard of trolley problem, in which there is a self-driving cars. Now that you know there are cars which drive themselves, they're self-driving cars. You're not in control of the car, a computer is in control of the car. The car witnesses that the road is blocked by a fallen tree, and if it continues driving, it will hit the tree and injure the passenger in the car. The only option for the car is to swerve onto the footpath where there are two people walking. Should the car continue, hit the tree and injure the one passenger, or swerve onto the footpath and injure the two pedestrians who are walking? The car decides to swerve onto the footpath because the rule given to the computer in the car is that under any condition you should protect your passenger. But is it the right thing? That's the dilemma. You might have an opinion, you might have an opinion, I might have an opinion. There is no right answers to these case studies. We analyze it from different perspectives. We analyze it from an ethical angle. We analyze it from government rule angle. We analyze it from the car manufacturer angle, and we analyze it from the pedestrian angle. These are called stakeholders. This is what we do in Glasgow. We get into such case studies. The students discuss and work on these case studies. No right answer, no wrong answer. But you need to do your analysis. Then we do a program called Sustainability Summit, wherein the students organize an event on sustainability in the school. Then we do a program called Social Startup. I am sure, Navya and Vani, you must have found a lot of problems in the society around you. And you would have thought that this is something I should solve. We want you to solve them. We want you to create a startup to solve them. We help you to do that. But it should be a small problem which you can solve on one weekend. Whilst we do all of this, we also help you to create your own portfolio through our portfolio management system, wherein you document all the activities. For example, you kids are doing this podcast with me. You should be documenting it. It's a part of your portfolio because you're prepared for it. So we help children create their own portfolios. Then we also give them global opportunities, internships and fellowships from across the globe. We curate them and we make it available for the students who are a part of our program. These are the various components of, I forgot to mention, there is also an AI academic counselor which is available for the students. That's last but definitely not the least. These are the various things which we do in your school for your students who are a part of our program.
That's truly incredible, sir.
Thank you.
What kind of work IFFSPD Europe does?
I think I've more or less kind of explained it in the previous one, but let me try to summarize to answer your question. What we believe is that children today, wherever they are, deserve global exposure and global opportunities because India has become a global country. What we do is to help you to prepare to be a global citizen through our fellowship program. That is what we do.
That's incredibly inspiring work.
Thank you so much, sir, for generously sharing your invaluable experiences, your profound insights, and your compelling vision with us today. It has been an absolute privilege to have you on the show.
It was my privilege and pleasure too. Thank you for being such gracious hosts, Navya and Vani. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you and Jai Hind.
Thank you and Jai Hind.